So here's a little video about how to get these original spec XJ-S damper assemblies apart. These are the same in XJ6s as well. The problem you've got is that the springs are held in with collets that sit in the top of this spring cup here. There's a better example here is one I've taken apart. So you've got two collets that sit in there and sit up against this ring here, and obviously you've got the spring is pushing that up and down, pushing against it to keep that those apart. So the spring is basically keeping those in place. And over the years, you'll get a lot of rust around the top there. This one's been cleaned. That one is about typical. You can see the amount of rust that's in there. And these collets, the bottom face sticks to the top of the spring cup, and no amount of hammering and levering will get them out. And you could spend a long time doing it, which I did, and I got annoyed with it, and so I worked out a better way of doing it. So what I've got here is a final one to do, which I thought I'd record. I've cleaned this as best I can and put some penetrating fluid in there to try and loosen a bit of the rust. I've used spring compressors, and I've compressed the spring down, and I've hammered this complete with the collets. This wasn't out. I've actually managed to shift it, so that was seated in place. Hammered it down. You can see where the lip is there, so by about, I don't know, an inch or so, because of the way I've compressed the spring, and then let it back up again. So this is then free moving because it was rusted in place. So this moves up and down now on the damper. That's all held in a vise. Then all you do is wind your spring compressors back down again, so that you've compressed by about an inch, I suppose, perhaps a bit more, and that spring is pretty well compressed. And I've got a little cold chisel in there, which you can see up against the bottom of the collet. So that's sitting, in effect, that's sitting in underneath here, look, on the bottom of that collet. I've got the handle of an adjustable spanner against the bottom of the cold chisel, so that's not going anywhere. And then you get a decent sized hammer. This little lump hammer was the one I used, and you whack the edge of the spring cup, and what happens is that then travels downwards whilst the cold chisel is pushing the collet upwards, and as you bash it, where are we? The collet is pushed upwards, nowhere else it can go, and then eventually you can just lift it out. So I'm going to have to do a bit more hammering, perhaps compress this spring a little bit more, and then once you've levered one of those collets out, so you can just get a screwdriver in, lever that out, which I'll do in a minute or two when I've got two hands free. Can't quite do it now, it won't come out, but that'll come out, and then the other collet can stay in position, and then the whole thing will be able to lift out and you can get the springs out. Here's one I did earlier, look, 3 springs. Damper where you can see the lip where the collets go. There's a collection of spring cups and collets on the floor. It's a fiddly old job and it's very annoying, but it'll save you a bit of time doing it this way. I don't really think there's any other way of doing it once it's all rusted in place. So there you go. Good luck with it. It's a miserable job.